We got a San Francisco 49ers update coming at you about Brandon Aiyuk. And really, I think it's pretty interesting considering I haven't heard this. And as you guys know, I've been all over this Brandon Aiyuk thing. So we have our first kind of, I would say, credible report of Brandon Ayuk's trade package from the Steelers to the 49ers that they have reportedly accepted, and we'll play a little bit of this sound bite so you can hear it in full. But we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about 49ers versus Saints preseason game, bunch of rookies standing out, a bunch of roster competitions going down, who's stepping up, who is showing out. So we'll react to a little bit of 49ers preseason. We'll talk about this little Brandon Aiyuk update that I do find very fascinating in the grand scheme of this Brandon Aiyuk saga. But good to see the SDS in the chat. You guys already know what to do. Drop the SDS, smash that like button, and let's talk about it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down, gang? Good to see everybody hopping in. What's SDS? It's the Sour Dough Squad. You guys haven't seen me for a while. I didn't go live last night. It was my wife's birthday. Happy birthday to wifey, and we ended up taking the whole squad to the game last night, kind of last minute too. So I just went last night kind of as a fan. Obviously, I still did my content and things like that, but more just chilling, more just hanging out and doing all that kind of stuff. Uh, did I meet you and not know this? Am I tripping? I met a couple people. Um, but Michael, if I met you and you didn't tell me that it was you, I got a bone to pick with you. Just kidding. No, darn it. I met a couple people. They said what's good. So that was cool. Yeah, that was the first time brought the whole squad to a 49er game. So it was low key. Treating the preseason exactly as it is, just like it's preseason. I see a lot of people kind of having some crazy reactions to it. I don't even think I've seen all the crazy reactions, but am I understanding correctly that there is a segment? I don't even know if it's 49er fans. It could just be a bunch of trolls. I don't even know. I haven't really been able to get a strong read on it, but are people saying that Joshua Dobbs is better than Brock Purdy based on yesterday's performance? Is that a real thing that is happening? I just wanted to make sure to even give any type of conversation towards it, because to me it's laughable, but is this a real thing that's out there? Is that actually happening? People, people troll all the time, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. But are there serious people saying that Josh Dobbs should start over Brock Purdy? I don't think so. I don't think so. But what I think we do know is, yeah, Brock Purdy against, I think it was the Saints' first team defense. Uh, Brock basically had, I believe, Colton McKivitz, Jake Brendel, the only starters out on the field with him, and it didn't go all that well. That's a surprise. Um, I said it after the game. I've had time to think about it. I don't necessarily understand like the point of putting Brock Purdy out there under those circumstances. Maybe it's just to see How he handles that situation, I don't know. I think Kyle Shanahan did talk about that situation. Like they were hoping for like one long drive and that was it. I know they had a bunch of stalled drives and it didn't really turn into anything. So um yeah, I'm not totally positive. Brock, I did see that Brock said that he wanted to get out there, get a feel for it, I guess, or he said that Kyle came to him and he said sure that he would definitely go out there. Um so I heard what he said after the game, but also too it's like I don't know, is that what we want to do to build our confidence? Obviously, if it what went in if we had a game opening touchdown drive, obviously we would feel great about it. But I think just because of the situation, and I think the results amplified the situation because if Brock went out and they were humming and they were moving the ball downfield, no one's saying anything. I think just for the simple fact that it was pretty rocky, I would say. I think amplifies the conversation about putting him out there. But again, at the same time, it's like I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I heard this as well. They're going to be playing Brock against the Raiders on Friday, which is going to be more of the dress rehearsal. So it's just like, why wouldn't we just save Brock for the actual dress rehearsal? But again, you who knows? Maybe I always talk about these things when like questioning certain decisions. It's like obviously there's a rhyme and reason inside that building. I'm not in that building, so it becomes challenging to be able to totally analyze their thought process because I don't know what their thought process is. I can only analyze it from my perspective and just wondering like, did the 49ers have to put Brock out there? Do you think it maybe would have just made a little bit more sense to just put him on the shelf for the preseason opener? That potentially could have been the case. But nonetheless, I'm not concerned about Brock Purdy at all from that singular preseason game. I was seeing some of the conversations kicking up on social media doing social media things. So not really surprised by that. But I just wanted to gauge the chat. So let's talk about some before we get into our like Brandon Ayuk update. Like I said, I got a video I want to show you that I think is pretty has been the most substantial report that we've gotten about what the 49ers have apparently accepted in a trade from the Steelers, which I find to be another fascinating wrinkle to this ongoing Brandon Ayuk saga. But we'll get to that in a second. I kind of want to talk about 49ers preseason game, some of the guys who stood out. I mean, to me, you know, sitting there vibing with the kids and the wife, just watching the game. Some guys that stood out to me continued to be Jacob Cowing. I thought Jacob Cowing had a phenomenal showing in this game. I think he showed it as a special teamer. He showed that he can, again, do the things that we saw on tape, whether at Arizona or UTEP, him making plays downfield as a returner, short to intermediate. Cowing's just a ball player. And I talk about it. I've said this a million times. He's 5'8", but he just doesn't come across as being 5'8". I don't know why that is. Like typically small players come across as small, but for whatever reason, when I look at Jacob Cowing, I'm like, are you sure you're 5'8"? Because you could be 6'1", and I would potentially believe it. But no, he is. I don't know. Something about the way he carries his side. I don't know. The way he plays doesn't feels like he plays 5'8". He just plays bigger than he is. And I thought he was great. I thought, considering how limited of training camp that he's gotten, I thought that Cowing did a quality job. And that's the crazy thing is when training camp started, we really didn't see Jacob Cowing because he was dealing with a soft tissue injury, from my understanding. So he missed the really early portions, almost the entirety of the. He probably missed over half of training camp this year. And the first day that he was out on the field happened to be the first day that I was credentialed. So I was able to get a really up close look at him. And that particular day was his first day out. He had a touchdown, he had a juggling catch. Um, he was making plays in his first practice with the 49ers. So I think this isn't, if you watched Cowing in college, you've had an opportunity to see how he's performed in practice, albeit minimum snaps. And then you're seeing him have that success in his first preseason game. I just kind of feel like that's who Cowan is. Cowan's going to be a baller. He's going to, you give him the opportunities, he's going to take advantage of it. He's got the speed, he's got the quickness, he's got the mentality, he's got the hands. So Cowan could be a player that the San Francisco 49ers really do rely on this year. So, I mean, early returns on the 49ers, draft class this year have been great. Renardo Green looking like a guy who could actually be the third cornerback in rotation. Obviously, I'm very excited about this because I was a massive Renardo Green fan when there really weren't a ton of them around. So to be able to see what Renardo was, go through the entire draft process basically undiscussed, and then get drafted by the 49ers and quickly show up and show out to be a guy that could be relied on. Renardo Green is as advertised. So he absolutely could be a guy that is playing real serious snaps for the 49ers this year. So that's another good return. Pooney. I don't think Pooney is going to be giving up that starting right guard spot. I believe he's earned it. I think at this current stage, even though he got in due to injury, based on what we've seen from Dominic Pooney, I don't see how you take him out. You know what I'm saying? I don't see how you stop this progress. The train has started. You can't stop it now. That's the thing, is with what he's shown you at such a young stage of his career, I think you got to keep going with Pooney. I think you don't take him out. You don't disrupt his development. He's already playing at a starting caliber level. And with more reps and more opportunities, he's only going to get better. So I think you have to keep him in. And what that means is then now you have to figure out, when Banks comes back, when Feliciano comes back, when Burford comes back, now you got to figure out what left guard and center are going to look like. Is it going to be Brendel? Is Nick Zakel enter that rotation? So there's a lot of questions for the 49ers interior offensive line. But when it comes to Dominic Pooney, to me, I think when we get through this preseason, I think we are going to be talking about him as a week one starter for the 49ers, which I didn't really anticipate. We talked about his path toward being a starter and how he had a shot for sure. Um, but the injuries have accelerated that. And on two, his performance is really what's driving that home. So all credit to Dominic Pooney for taking advantage of these opportunities. He's doing what every coach wants a rookie to do. It's to make it impossible to take him out of the starting lineup. And that's what he's doing. So Dominic Pooney is proving to be a guy that is pretty reliable, which is not always not always the way it happens with rookie offensive linemen. So that's pretty cool. Mustafa is Ronnie Lott 2.0. It was pretty cool to see Mustafa rocking the Ronnie Lott after the game. I think that's a pretty fitting endorsement for the young safety, fourth round draft pick out of Wake Forest, already proving to be a hitter. I really liked what John Lynch had to say about Malik Mustafa on KBR. I think it was last Friday. He said that Malik Mustafa reminds them of Buda Baker. And I was like, I really liked Buda Baker coming out of Washington. Buda Baker has proven to be one of the better safeties in the league with the Arizona Cardinals. He fits that. Buda Baker's not a large human. Very would be considered undersized from I guess a safety standpoint. But they pack a punch, and Malik Mustafa getting the comp from John Lynch to Buda Baker, man, this rookie class looking pretty solid right about now. Obviously, you're getting contributions from guys like Jared Kingston on the 49ers offensive line. He's proven to be a guy that you can shift around. He can play tackle, he can play guard. He's already proving to be, like, you could see he was an extremely good puller at USC. You're seeing that translate to this level, which is a phenomenal sign. Jared Kingston, Tatum Bethune, the 49, and listen, they haven't even seen their first round draft pick, Ricky Pearsall, on the field. No Ricky Pearsall. And we're over here talking about, like, damn, 49ers may have hit a home run. They may have stricken gold on this 49ers draft class just based on early returns. So early returns, pretty solid, really, so far. And that's without Isaac Guerendo. Isaac Guerendo, we haven't seen. Cody Schrader, we have seen. Cody Schrader looks pretty solid. Like, I can show, like, when we go and do the film, I'm gonna probably do a film breakdown of this last game. Hendrick says, like, right here, I was expecting to see more from Schrader. I'll show you right now. This will be a preview of our incoming film breakdown. But I really like the quality of this run from Schrader as the first play of the game, to just get a sense for the feel that he has as a zone runner. So we're going to do an impromptu one play film breakdown on Cody Schrader. We'll just do that. We'll do everyone for the sake of it. Why not? But Hendrick says, I was expecting to see more from Schrader. I just want to show you this one. This is the first play. I'm still getting through the tape, so there might be other things that pop up. But take a look at this play. We'll run it all the way through, and then you know what I'll do. I'll break it down and we'll stop it. So it's basically pitch left. You get pre-snap motion, moving cowing across the formation. You pitch it left, and this cutback is fantastic vision of understanding leverage of your blocks, understanding pushing outside, cutting inside. I really like this run. It wasn't a big gain, but I like it. And I think when you watch what's happening here on the outside, he's keying on this block from Salbert. So what he's looking for is seeing that head. If this head is showing he's got outside contain, this means that it's triggering in Schrader's mind that he's got to cut back inside, because this leverage, the defensive end won this block. So he continues to push outside. He cuts. Look at these jump cuts off Jalen Moore's hip against the grain. It was a great job. And also, not only was it a great job of identifying the leverage of the play and then making a quality cut to the inside is, again, Nick Zakelj, man. Nick Zakelj, he's just been spots starting at multiple spots. Last week it was center. This week it's left guard. Look at this rep by Zakelj. I love it. He's got to get flat because ideally he's going to be cutting off this linebacker and this pursuit angle. But as you can see, the linebacker is going to cut underneath. So the linebacker takes himself out. That leaves Zakelj free. And so what Zakelj does is, based on this read, seeing the linebacker cut underneath, his key as an offensive lineman is, okay, I'm going to take over this defensive tackle. So that's what he does. And look at him and Brendel tag team that, and look at the lane and cutback that is generated as a result. Now, I don't fault Jacob Cowing for not being able to seal off. I think that's Cam Jordan right there. So I don't fault him there. But overall, watching Schrader see this develop in real time and then cutting it back, I think these are positives. Now, Schrader probably won't make. I don't know if he's going to make the final roster. To be honest, it's just a numbers game at this point. But I like what I've seen so far. I think he definitely shows some good stuff for sure. But I'm still working through the tape, so I got a lot more work to do. I'll probably watch the tape tonight. We could probably try to schedule a film breakdown for tomorrow. I also want to do a Puni breakdown. I got a lot of breakdowns that I want to get out, but there's our one little one play breakdown from that particular game, just about one of the rookies that we were talking about. So yeah, we do look like we have a lot of rookies contributing. So that's one of the exciting things from what we've seen so far in the preseason. All right, I've seen a couple people ask about this, so I'll get into it. Brandon is delaying for after the Lamb extension. That's not my particular read on the situation regarding Brandon Aiyuk, but I do feel like we have a little bit of an interesting update from a Steelers insider. So this is a guy who joined
see with Brandon Aiyuk right now, just hanging out, seeing
Rich Eisen. First of all, could you hear that? Before I play this video, I need my producers in the chat to let me know if they have heard, they actually heard that little bit that was playing. I need the sourdough producers. Give me thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, so far. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, so this is going to set us up for our next topic. This is going to set us up for I think what is honestly, obviously, you guys know I've been on top of every little piece of Brandon Aiyuk information that has been out there. I think we can make that abundantly clear. Okay. So, with that being said, that I have literally come through every little piece of Brandon Aiyuk information that is currently on the internet and brought it to you. I find this to be an interesting development, considering the fact this is, to me, the first I substantially have heard from a what I believe Gary is a credible source, Steelers insider for KDKA TV, and joined the Rich Eisen show to tell us what he's been told about this Brandon Aiyuk situation. So he's going to reveal what the Steelers have offered the 49ers via trade. And I find this to be fascinating because the reports were that the 49ers accepted this And I think that's where I'm interested to see where this conversation goes. So take a listen to what Jerry got to say about this situation right here on the Rich Eisen Show.
Brandon Aiyuk right now, just hanging out, seeing if he and the Niners fall apart. Is that the way things are right now?
Yeah, that's kind of where it was. I mean, they've been waiting all along. They felt the ball was in the 49ers court. And then, of course, they thought, okay, they're probably going to try to re-sign him, which appears to be the case. Rich, I can't remember our last conversation, but the Steelers I was told, were not going to offer any players in a trade. Now, don't ask me why, but they weren't. And they weren't. They're not about to budge. They were going to offer draft picks, a number 2, and then something else. So they're I guess they're just kind of waiting to see what the 49ers decide to do with him. Obviously, Rich, they would like to have him. I don't want to say they need to have him. When you have George Pickens, you don't need to have him, but there's no question they'd like to have him, and we'll kind of see how it plays.
And again, your sense, just to circle back one last time on the Aiyuk trade, your sense is that the Steelers are not throwing another current human being on their roster in this trade to San Francisco if somehow the Aiyuk 49er conversations fall apart completely and they just say, screw it, we're sending you to Pittsburgh, that's it. That there is not going to be another player on the roster of the Steelers going back to San Francisco in the same way that the reporting was Amari Cooper would be somebody, or the Niners needed to have a receiver back to supplement the loss of Aiyuk for this year.
The Steelers' understanding all along, Rich, was that the 49ers wanted a receiver and they were going to try and go get one maybe somewhere else. And then it was going to kind of be a 3-team deal. They also thought, their division rival, the Browns, might get him because they could give them Amari Cooper, and Jimmy Haslam, who's been known to make insane, ridiculous deals, just might do that, for Aiyuk and the 49ers. But right now, the Steelers aren't prepared to throw another deck chair on the Queen Mary, Rich. I mean, they're standing pat. I'm not going to sit here and be Omar Khan, but they've been very adamant to me that there is not going to be a player involved. And again, why? I don't know, but that's their stance. They're just going to stick with draft picks.
All right. Let's break this down. This is why I find this particular report fascinating, because I think it was about a week ago. Might have been last Monday. I can't even remember. All the days are just melting together. And he has not only said not once, but twice, but tripled down and said he's adamant that he's been told that the Steelers aren't presenting any players in a trade to the San Francisco 49ers. Only a second-round draft pick and effectively what I'm considering a mid to late round draft pick. Well, hold on a second. Mr. Jerry. You're adamant? You're adamant that there's no player involved and it's only a second-round draft pick and maybe something else? And the 49ers have accepted this in principle, according to Ian Rappaport a week ago? They accepted that? That's what you're telling me? That's what you're telling me, Jerry. Again, we're forced to connect the dots with this saga. The saga that's been generated, we have nothing else left to do but try to make sense of it from our perspective, which is on the outside looking in. A week ago, we were told the San Francisco 49ers, Steelers agreed to compensation for a trade that would send Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers and apparently a second-round draft pick and a mid-round draft pick. And Brandon Aiyuk accepted the deal, except here we are a week later and nothing's happened. Someone's lying. Someone's lying to Ian. That's why when that whole thing came out and we were talking about this is unprecedented situation. I think I hammered it home that a trade in principle being announced through a newsbreaker has never occurred. Why would that happen? Why? Why? Why would you announce a trade in principle, not accept it, and we find out that was what you accepted? Hmm. Something don't smell right. Someone's lying. Someone's lying somewhere. It could be good old Jerry. It could be the 49ers. It could be Ian Rappaport. Could be the Steelers. Could be Omar Khan. Someone's fibbing. Someone's fibbing because there's no way the San Francisco 49ers have agreed to that trade in principle because it would be an immediate L. Immediate L. I think we all smell it. It's what this whole saga is starting to smell like. Like, what's that smell? It stinks. Like what's that smell? This doesn't smell right. This situation doesn't pass the smell test, as they say. So I don't know. That's why I've already believed that I didn't think Brandon Aiyuk was going to be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for this exact reason. This has been my reasoning for why I think this whole thing has been fabricated, because what are you getting? If you're not getting Minka Fitzpatrick, if you're not getting Troy Falzano, if you're not getting Pat Fryermuth, Highsmith, whatever player, this is a non-starter. That's why that whole Ian Rappaport thing, like announcing a trade has been done in print. What? That's why the whole thing was bananas when it came out, and it's kind of like feeling like it's coming to fruition that it's still a little bananas. So what is the reality here? Everything that we've heard is the 49ers have presented Brandon Aiyuk with a contract offer that would have him paid at an APY of $30 million per year. We're told that there's a very small detail that is stopping this from getting done. But then we're also told in this very same breath, well, Brandon could be traded to the Steelers. No, he's not. He's not getting traded to the Steelers. If you're not getting a player back in return, and as Jerry said adamantly, that you're not getting a player in return, the 49ers have flirted with the options of turning it into a 3-team trade and trying to go get someone else. We went down that rabbit hole. That seemed to flame out. So if that's not an option, you're only getting draft picks from the Steelers, then no, a trade has not been agreed to. A trade has not been agreed to. So the fact that that was put out as like, oh, we've agreed to trade with the Steelers. Did you? Did you? Did that happen? Because I don't think it did. So someone's doing something. I thought smoke season was over. Don't make me pull out the tinfoil hat on this one, because this is real tinfoil hat. Like, you guys know me. I keep that thing on me for these reasons. I'm like, when it happened, I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. This is unprecedented. This doesn't happen. Trades announced in principle? That doesn't happen. So does that mean it's real? I don't think so. So I don't know. So basically my takeaway is this: is regardless of Jerry being right or wrong about what the Steelers have offered the San Francisco 49ers in a trade for Brandon Aiyuk, we have heard consistently that the Steelers weren't going to give away players. We've talked about if you're not getting in a player of high caliber in return, then the 49ers can't trade him because they aren't a franchise that does those types of things. They have a track record of proving that they only trade players if they obtain value. And trading Brandon Aiyuk at a loss doesn't seem like a 49ers move that we would expect. So that's why I'm like, why are we still talking about the Steelers? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we're even still hearing reports. Oh, like the Steelers are still involved. The Steelers are still waiting around. Of course they're waiting around. Anyone would wait around if you're getting Brandon Aiyuk for a second and a bag of chips. Like, of course you're waiting around. But that's the whole point. If that is really it, if that is really at its core, the facts of the situation, that it's just draft capital, they aren't trading him. So what are we doing? That's where the question then gets repackaged is what's the end goal here? Because we tried to trade BA to the Cleveland Browns. Well, listen, the Cleveland Browns, they're willing to give up a number one wide receiver, Amari Cooper, plus a second round draft pick, plus an additional mid-round draft pick. That's not a bad haul, right? Okay, well, what were the Pats willing to give up? It sounded like Matthew Judon, a second, maybe Kendrick Bourne. That's not a bad haul either. All things considered, I'd still prefer Brandon Aiyuk on this team. But if we're talking about deals to accept, and then you have the Steelers sitting in the corner like, we got it $3. If you want to give us Brandon Aiyuk for $3, we will accept that. Yeah, of course you will. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't take Brandon Aiyuk for a half-eaten bag of chips, right? Like, so I just find this situation to be interesting that the Steelers still continue to be connected as if it's like Brandon Aiyuk's decision to make, like, oh, you either go to the Patriots or you either sign with the 49ers. Or excuse me, you either go to the Steelers or you sign with the 49ers. Would the 49ers accept that trade? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. So is it Brandon Aiyuk's decision to decide where he wants to play? Based on how we've seen everything play out, it appears Brandon Aiyuk wants to play for the 49ers. It feels like Brandon Aiyuk wants to be paid by the 49ers and wants to play for the 49ers. He wants to stay here with the 49ers, and that's what it seems like the outcome is headed towards. But we are now heading into more prolonged territory with this situation. Steelers are still linked, but for what reason? For what reason? I don't know. But to me, it's getting a little frustrating, as I'm sure we've already talked about. It's already frustrating for everyone involved. It's frustrated from everyone on the outside looking in. I'm sure it's probably frustrating for everyone on the inside as well. But at this point, it's just like, what are we doing here, man? If the Steelers, if that's the offer, the answer is no. So that means the Steelers, you can throw them out, which means there are 0 teams willing to trade for Brandon Aiyuk at the cost that it requires and where Brandon Aiyuk will also accept their terms. So that means it's a one-horse race with the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk to get this thing done. So we are at a point where I do believe the Steelers are out. They're there because, again, Why wouldn't you if you could potentially get Brandon Aiyuk for $3? So I'm more uh looking at this from a situation where it's just between the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk at this stage. And so any delays that are currently going on right now between the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Ayuk, that is it. Like the Steelers out in my opinion. No players, okay, no deal, right? So Steelers ain't given what the 49ers want. Brandon Ayuk apparently doesn't have any other teams. The Washington Commanders were a team he wanted to play for. They're out. So we wait. And I think that the thought process right now amongst a lot of fans is that it's somehow a choice between the Steelers and the 49ers when it's not. It's just not. It's between Ayuk and the 49ers to get this thing done, get it ironed out, handshake, pop the champagne. Let's move on with our lives. God damn. Like, it is crazy. This whole situation's crazy. It's crazy that we're sitting here on August 19th, about to be over, still talking about Brandon Ayuk. Will he get paid? Will he get traded? Give me a break. Give me a whole Kit Kat break. We're gonna get this done. Let's pay him. Let's move on. Let's get it over with. Let's get it over with. and then focus on our next contract holdout in Trent Williams. So that's crazy. We got one preseason game left. Friday against the Raiders. We still have two contract holdouts, holdouts. And then the 49ers play their first game right around the corner. So yeah. So that's where we stand. I found that to be I find this to be fascinating situation. I hope that this situation is studied and you know, in the history books it's reported accurately of what went down between the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk because boy, it's been a wild situation. The reports are that it was a second round draft pick and a mid round draft pick. So no player, adamantly that there's no player involved, and it's a second round draft pick and a mid round draft pick for Brandon Ayuk. Which one do I think happens first? Oh, it's got to be Aiyuk. I mean, at this stage, see, now I think the questions are becoming is the Aiyuk negotiation holding up the Trent negotiation? I would assume not, because obviously I don't think the Aiyuk negotiation held up the CMC negotiation. It didn't hold up the Juwan Jennings negotiation. So I would assume it's still Aiyuk, because from everything that we've heard is that they are literally on the brink of accepting this thing. It sounds like the hardest parts of it have been kind of finalized, and they're just they're hemming and hawing over some minor details. So it sounds like it sounds like it could pop at any moment. But again, I don't know what the holdup is. Considering that I based on the reports that we're hearing, is it's kind of been in this spot for like a week now. So I mean, this is kind of in line with the conversation that we're having about the trade compensation. Gabriel said there's rumors, reports floating around that the Steelers' contract for BA has resulted in him going back to the table to the Niners. I think that's one way that you could think about it. I'm pretty sure I got your super chat. I think this is the super chat that we started off our Brandon Aiyuk conversation. I don't think this is what's happening. No, I don't. I don't think that's what's happening. But my concern is that if it does pop, is there any ramifications? If Jamar Chase does pop up with a new contract, are there any ramifications? I hope not. But back to this, there's numerous reports floating around that the Steelers contract for BA has resulted in him going back to the table for the Niners. My read on this is Brandon Aiyuk accept a contract with the Steelers at around 28. At 28. So that to me then tells me that it was on the 49ers to accept the second and mid-round draft pick that they reportedly were offered and had accepted. So I would say that positions that to be more decision on the 49ers to accept that, because if BA accepted that, and that those reports are accurate, that he accepted and it was reported by multiple people that was the case multiple times. So I do believe that it was, I do believe he accepted the deal at 28. What that meant is that the 49ers would have to pull the trigger. And when part of what I'm saying is, if they're only getting a second and mid-round draft pick, according to Steelers insiders, that to me makes me feel like, well, what is reality? Because if you accepted that, he would be gone. He would have been traded already. But the way that I'm reading it is that you're not going to take a second and a mid-round for Brandon Aiyuk, because that would be an L. And then it's like, so that to me is on BA. If BA accepted a literal deal from the Steelers, he did his part. He did his, there's three sides that need to come together on this. The Steelers and Brandon Aiyuk came to terms. So that's not on Brandon. For Brandon to be a Steeler, the 49ers have to pull that trigger, and they have to accept the trade compensation from the Steelers. They didn't do that. They haven't done that. I don't believe they will do that, because the Steelers aren't the Browns. The Steelers aren't the Patriots. They're not going to overspend. They're not going to overpay. They won't do that. And so the the rumor to me is more so that the 49ers aren't accepting the deal from the Steelers from a trade compensation. That to me is feeling suspect. And then for the 49ers to then reportedly up their offer to $30 million per year on average, to me is an interesting dilemma with this, is because, well, if BA accepts 28, why couldn't the 49ers do 28? Unless there's another element where when the 49ers let Brandon Aiyuk go and retest the market at the start of training camp, and he goes and gets a $32.5 million from the deal from the Patriots, he goes and gets a $30+ million offer from the Browns, that solidifies his market. The market isn't just anything that we can say, like, we think he's valued here. Two teams put pen to paper and said, we believe Brandon Aiyuk is $30+ million worth a player. So again, as we've talked about through this entire situation, the price is dictated by the market. And so if the market told the 49ers that you have a player who's worth over $30 million, that to me is why this thing has jumped from 28 to 30, is because they allowed BA to go test his market, and the market came back and they said, hey, we'll pay him 32 and a half. And the 49ers are like, oh, well, that didn't work out to our benefit because the market actually went up higher by allowing him to go and communicate with these teams. So that's kind of my read on it. It's like if you were going, that's the pitfalls too of not being able to actually execute the trade, is that you legitimately allowed Brandon Aiyuk to go and get like, this is real tangible numbers from multiple teams that were willing to pay over 30 plus. And to me, that even reset his market again. So that's why I think the 49ers came up to 30 from 28. So to me, based on all of this, it feels like that it's not the Steelers contract that resulted in the 49ers going back to the table with the Niners. It was the other contracts on top of the 49ers not getting trade compensation from the one team that Brandon Aiyuk would choose to go to, and that's the Steelers. So that's why I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. I don't think they're going to send them for picks. Giannis says, Brad, Schefter says a resolution is coming this week. Which way is it leaning? It better come this week. And it really should be Brandon Aiyuk's getting paid. I pretty much just got done talking about how that is really the only option forward, unless the 49ers want to take an instant L on a trade. That's the options, is you pay Brandon Aiyuk market rate based on seeing the market explode, or you trade him for nothing. But no, I did not see Adam Schefter's report. Where did that come from? Did he tweet that? Or did he say that on a show or something? It's not on his Twitter. I'm not necessarily seeing it. Oh, okay. It says, the headline says, Schefter expect Brandon Aiyuk resolution to heat up this week. So he must have said this on one of his shows that he does. So Schefter says, at some point in time, the 49ers need to get resolution. Pretty much what we've been talking about. So I would expect this issue to heat up this week at some point in time because it's reached a critical juncture. Definitely agree with that as well. Is that literally all he said? Well, apparently that's all he said. So if you're just joining, Schefter said at some point in time, the 49ers need to get resolution. So I would expect this issue to heat up this week at some point in time because it's reached critical juncture. Well, I don't think to be honest, you needed to be Adam Schefter to come up with that conclusion. I think that's pretty much what we were actually saying here on the show before I was alerted to that. So, yes, I agree. I agree with that. Yes, we are at a critical juncture. I don't believe he's going to get traded. So they need to figure out what the path forward is. That's what it is. At one point, I felt very confident that BA was going to be traded because that's really what it felt like. And then once we watched the Cleveland Browns deal disappear and the Pats deal disappear, and now we really understand where the Steelers sit and what they're offering, that deal to me is disappearing. So what's left? It's to sign with the San Francisco 49ers. That's it. That's really, really it. Shout out to my guy, Corey. I got it over here. Hold on. Check out what my guy, Corey, blessed me with at the 49er game yesterday. Whoo. You got the Joe Staley? This is one of the more cultured pieces that I will be able to add to the wall. Autograph Staley. Shout out to my guy Corey. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. A Staley? Come on, that's for men of culture, men and women of culture. That's a chef's kiss. Like, I love that, man. Shout out Corey, dude. What a legend. Appreciate you, my guy. That was dope. But yeah, the Staley, love it. Justin Smith, a Deshaun Goldson one. I want a Goldson would be fire. Goldson's my guy, dude. I loved Goldson. He was one of my favorite Niners of that era. So good. So good. Well, I do believe this is kind of also along with the things that we were talking about earlier. Is Debo said on K Adams that he's confident in BA in staying because I do believe that Debo was literally trying to think of like the PR way of answering that question. And he said, you know what, screw it. BA's going to be here because he's not getting traded to the Steelers. He's not getting traded to the Steelers. So that's why it's the 49ers. It's Brandon Aiyuk in a staring match. Who budges? More on this at 11. But that's what Adam is saying. That's what Adam's saying. He's saying the 49ers need to make a decision, is what he's saying. So I don't interpret that as Brandon Aiyuk needs to make a decision. I interpret it as the 49ers need to make a decision. What are you going to do? You're going to sign him? You're going to trade him? Those are your two options. I don't think they're going to trade him. So sign him. And let us breathe. Let this fan base breathe. I speak for the entire fan base that we deserve an opportunity to have rest from this madness that is the never-ending off-season negotiations from hell. Like straight up, every year, every single season. Listen. Everyone wants to paint BA in a bad light. But what happened with DeForest Buckner? What happened with George Kittle? What happened with Nick Bosa? What happened with Deebo Samuel? What happened with Brandon Aiyuk. All very similar. All very similar. They're all different individuals. They are all different individuals, different positions, different skill sets, different stages of their careers. But there's one constant. There's one constant. So I am specifically, again, as a observer of this team, who happens to have a microphone in front of his face, I'm tired of this process. I've said it a million times. I'm not in those meeting rooms. I don't know the rhyme or the reason behind it. So I can't speak to that, because maybe there is some rhyme and reason, that why these things drag out like this, why everything becomes so contentious, why 49ers players are so bitter about negotiating with the 49ers. I don't know. I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it, but all I can tell you right now is I don't like it. I don't have to like it. I just don't. I think this Aiyuk situation is a perfect example of how not to do this. So, listen, like I said, they might have a whole drawer of information that would change my thoughts on that. But considering how I don't, and what I do have access to is what we all have access to, not a fan of it, especially when, George, Nick, Debo, Fred all come out and say, yeah, it's hell. It's hell. Well, it's hell for us too. It's hell for us too. I'm sick of it, man. This will impact the Niners regardless. Hope up. Sure. Hope. I got I'm very hopeful. You guys know I'm an optimistic guy when it comes to this team. I can't stand this situation, man. It's clearly a distraction. You talk about being a winning team. You talk about doing winning things. To me, this isn't a part of what a winning culture looks like. Like we talk about all the positives that the 49ers bring to the table in regards to locker room culture and how they are a tight-knit group, and how that, forges these situations to strive on the field amidst adverse situations. But it's like, damn, man, how do these negotiations help the winning culture? How do these types of negotiations actually transpire into positivity? Obviously, when you pay the guy, that's the positive, but it's like, can't we pay them without all of this? like what? Good stuff, man. I'm hoping Schefter's right, and I hope that everything comes to fruition and we don't have to talk about this anymore, because I think we're all officially over it, and we're just waiting, man. We're just waiting. That's all we're doing. Just waiting. We're waiting for the inevitable return of Brandon Aiyuk to sign after all that time. Man, good stuff there. Good stuff there. Let's see. I saw some. You guys can ask me some actual 49ers related questions. We don't have to talk about this BA situation nonstop. Michael says, Brad, do you think Dobbs number 2, Mordecai 3? Ooh. Hey, Mordecai, not he really didn't practice all that much during training camp, or at least the training camp practices that I attended. There, so I was like, I'm not sure to make what to make of this Mordecai guy because he gets 0 reps. He gets 0 reps. And then towards the end of training camp, started to get some reps. And so you could start to see, like, oh, he's got a live arm. Like that, he actually has an arm on him. Like that ball zips out of his hand. I was actually impressed by that because I just didn't see too many opportunities of it early on in training camp. But as Mordecai continued to play, like there's some talent there. Like he has an NFL arm. I think that is true. Um, I think it's too early for Mordecai at this particular place. I do think Mordecai will find himself hopefully on the practice squad. But I think we're in a situation where the 49ers could very well keep both Dobbs and Brandon Allen, because after Dobbs' performance, this past game against the Saints, there's no way you can cut him. 0% chance you can cut Coulton, or excuse me, you can cut Dobbs, because he'll get picked up instantly. And number 2, we know he has some starting potential. So then what you're thinking about is, okay, well, now you got a guy who knows the entire 49ers system. And we're going to let this guy go and latch on to another team? No, I don't think so. And then it's with Allen. They like Allen too. And Allen has looked pretty solid throughout training camp. So I think there's a chance they keep all 3 and they cut Mordecai and put Mordecai on the practice squad. So I do believe, okay, I will stop talking about the backup quarterback battle just for you. I know it's a challenging subject to talk about, but just for you, I will stop talking about it. So apologies to Joshua Dobbs and Tanner Mordecai. You cannot be discussed here because some people can't handle the conversation. So I apologize, but I do think it's going to be, I think they have to keep 3. I think you got to keep Purdy, Dobbs, and Allen, and you cut Mordecai and you put him on the roster or put him on the practice squad. How many offensive line make the roster? Now, last year was interesting because they kept a lot of offensive linemen. Remember that? They kept 2 swing tackles. They kept Feliciano. They kept Zakel. They had upwards of 9 offensive linemen last year. Was it 9 or 10? It was some ridiculous amount of offensive linemen that I had not anticipated that they would keep. And so you're looking at a very similar situation like that. You're going to need Jalen Moore to be your swing tackle for the left side. You're going to likely keep Hubbard, who's going to be your swing tackle for the right side. You're going to keep Feliciano, hopefully. Feliciano's just been banged up all offseason, so that's a challenge. But you would anticipate they keep Feliciano. They keep Burford. Obviously, you add Pooney to the mix. You keep Banks. You keep Brendel. Your numbers are thin, right? So obviously Trent comes back. Banks, Brendel, Pooney, McKivitz, Feliciano, Burford. I think Zakel's making this roster. I think Zakel's making it. Hubbard. They probably going to have to keep 9 again. They're going to have to keep 9 because you're going to need both the swing tackles for the backup, Hubbard and Jalen Moore. You're going to keep Feliciano. You're going to keep Burford, and you're going to keep Nick Sakel. They're going to keep 9. I think Sakel makes this roster. I think Sakel's earned a roster spot. Unfortunately, that means Kingston is likely the odd man out. So I expect Kingston to try to be like a practice squad guy who comes back around. But Zakel, from what I've seen, he's earned this roster spot. Where I never have disliked Zakel, but I know he struggled last year in preseason. So I was like, oh, they kept Zakel. I based on watching him last year, I thought the struggles were going to kind of do him in, but the 49ers clearly have seen something in him. And as a result of that, they are being rewarded for that because Zakel is having a hell of a camp. Hell of a camp, hell of a preseason. And so I think Zakel, I think it was between Zakel and Ben Barch for that final swing tackle spot. And as a result, I think Zakel wins it. I do. I think he won it. And shout out to Zakel, man. He might be one of the most improved players on the entire roster from what I've seen. And that's a big thing to be able to carry around. Most improved player on the roster. Yeah, I think Nick Zakel might be one of the most improved players on the roster. Like I'm almost shocked at how well he's playing, considering what we saw with him in that Raiders game last year. It's night and day. He is a different person. He's a different player. I was watching that I remember because that was the game where Manning, where I was like, dude, Manning's cooking. Well, it was the opposite for Zakel in that game. And so now, like, I didn't have him making my way too early 53-man roster. Now I got him he's making it. He's making it. I would be shocked if Nick Zakel didn't make this roster. So I think it becomes a challenge now because Kingston will likely be a cut unless they keep 10 offensive linemen. But damn, how do you keep 10 offensive linemen? 10 offensive linemen is a dream to me, but it's typically a spot where you don't keep numbers like that. But I think with the 49ers injuries already showing up, I think they have to. You've already had so many injuries on your interior. It's insane. So you have to keep extra interior guys for sure. I don't think Breida makes it. Breida definitely could be a practice squad guy. I would honestly think that they would rather keep Schrader over Breida at this point. But yeah, I think it's an uphill battle for him, especially if Garendo gets healthy. It's going to be tough for Breida to make this roster. So I think you put him on the practice squad potentially. What do they do with Cam Latu? They either gotta put him on IR or they have to cut him. I don't think there's any chance that you can get Cam Latu on this roster right now. It sucks because I do see the potential that Latu has. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's just a terrible player. There's something going on with him. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know what it is. I don't think he's just a trash player, if that makes sense. I think he's like, I just feel like he's putting too much pressure on himself. Like, he dropped that ball that hit him right in the hands yesterday, and it's just like, dude, this is what you can't do. You have to catch the gimmies. You have to catch the layups. Those are the things that you have to do just to make up for last year. And so I see a lot of the same things. I do think he's a pretty solid athlete. I think he does show an ability to run pretty good routes, but he looks lost. That would be like my evaluation, is not necessarily it's not like he can't do it. It's just he looks lost out there. And it's really, I think, impacting his play. So I don't, it's got to be Sauber and it's got to be Willis. Has to. Has to be those guys. And that's it. You can only keep three. And then you want to know who else has kind of been like interesting? Tonges. Jake Tonges is a guy that I had zero expectations for and continue to have zero expectations for, but I'm still like, dang, he keeps showing a little something. So Jake Tonges, I don't think he makes the roster, but get him on the practice squad. Absolutely. Tonges is 1 year away to me. He looks like a 1 year away guy where you plop him on the practice squad because no one's going to claim him. You put him on the practice squad, you get another year in the system, and then he could replace that Saubert role. I think Braden Willis is going to be here for a while. He could replace that Saubert role. He would compete with Pline as well, but I do think Tonges is showing something. I just hope that he doesn't show enough that a team is like, we'll take him. We'll take it. We'll see what he does. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm more intrigued with Tonges at this point than Latu. Unfortunately, I hate saying that. Bell and Gray are disappointments. Yeah, this might be the end of the road for Danny Gray, unfortunately. Ronnie Bell, I think, has a lot of upside. That's good, Sean, my island boy. I think Bell has upside. So considering he is a 7th round draft pick, because what I've seen from Bell in practice has been promising. What I've seen from Bell in training camp has been a lot more promising than what he's shown in preseason. So I think he definitely has the opportunity to still make the team. But that also is determined on how many they keep. Because if they keep 6, then I don't think he makes the team, right? Because what would the numbers stack out? The numbers would stack out to, assuming Aiyuk returns, Debo, Jennings, Pearsall, Cowing, Conley. I feel like Conley has earned his spot. When I did my way too early roster projection, I had Conley as a cut, practice squad add, elevate up. I do think that Conley has earned himself some money. I think I would be a little bit weary of moving off Conley at this point just because he's trusted. He's a guy we can rely on. He's proven to make plays, whether in training camp or in big moments last year. He's a blocker. He fits. He fits our role, fits the role as a veteran guy who also plays special teams. So I do think Conley makes this roster. So that's the challenge of the numbers game, is if they keep 7, Bell makes it, in my opinion. But if they keep 6, he doesn't make it. Conley makes it. So, and I just don't think Gray, although started out good, when the pads came on, he disappeared. So I don't think I don't know. I don't think I don't think you can right now move off Conley. I would feel uncomfortable. I'd feel like someone's seen the reports. Someone's seen us talking about Conley. Someone would take a shot on him if they needed a wipe. You know who would take a shot on Conley? The Steelers. The Steelers would claim Conley. That's exactly who would take him. 100%. It would be the Steelers. I would bet money that if another team didn't take Conley before the Steelers were up, the Steelers would take Conley. Yes, mark it down. Mark it down. They would take, he is a Steeler type wide receiver in an absolute heartbeat. He would not make it through waivers at this point. So I think you got to keep him. I think you got to keep him. Brad, do you think there's going to be a battle at center? I think there's a battle with Nick Sakel versus anyone who isn't going to lock down their spot. Again, I still got to get through the tape. I'm behind on the tape. I've gotten a couple plays in, but I still have a lot more to get into. But I do believe that Nick Sakel is challenging. He's pushing. I did not anticipate it. And I think he could be pushing at guard. And I do think he could be pushing at center. Again, Nick Sakel, did not have him on my bingo card this year as someone who could be a potential starter. He's looked good, man. He's looked good. I got to give it to him. Probably the biggest surprise for me of training camp, Nick Sakel. Wow. And he's really put it on tape so far. Again, I gotta do my whole watch through of Saints game, but so far not bad. Not bad. Is Brendel a free agent next year? Maybe. Because he signed a 4-year. Hey, we signed him. I didn't realize how chunky that deal was. 4 years. I think I did. I just haven't remembered. 4 years, $16.5 million. His average salary is 4.1, which is very manageable. Total guarantees were 7.5. So the 49ers had a potential out last year after the 2023 season, but they didn't take it. So if they were to release him, he would count for 2.7 in dead cap, only a cap saving of about $2 million. It's not a crazy saving. It's not a crazy hit either. Oh. Jay says, I'm 100% confident that we are trading Brandon Aiyuk from our team. We will choose to use the money towards multiple players to keep our core. I think the only problem here is who's that team that's trading for Brandon Aiyuk, because I don't think there's a team that exists that meets the criteria for a trade. So we've been told all along it's been the Steelers. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that the Steelers can afford him. Brian Baldinger just put out A tweet says that Brock Purdy needs a little help from his friends. Does anyone want the Rock? Kind of reminds me of 49ers training camp without Brandon Aiyuk, but I digress. Man, everyone can see that the 49ers need Brandon Aiyuk other than the 49ers, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. But no, it's not a second for B. It's a second and a mid-round pick. It's a second and a mid-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk that the 49ers have supposedly accepted in principle. Did they just report that? Because we've been talking about that for quite some time. That we have. So again, that's why to me, this thing ain't happening. This thing ain't happening. Yep, I see it right here. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. This deal is dead in the water. It is DED dead. The Steelers are out, man. They are out. They are cooked. They are fried. They are not a option. So we can stop talking about them like they are because listen, man, I am very interested in buying a Lamborghini. But if I pull up their Bleacher Report is talking about the same thing we're talking about. It's this we have the same source. It's the same guy. We're talking about the same report. But I want a Lamborghini. But if I pull up to the dealership and I'm like, well, I see what you're asking for, but I have a really nice Nissan. I'll trade it in. Plus, I got like $2,000 on a down payment. Deal? I want my payments to be manageable, under 200 a month. That's what I got. That's what I'm offering. I'll wait here until you decide. I'm actually not going to put anything else into it. But if you're trying to get over on that other customer, just say that we have agreed to a deal in principle. Just don't tell them what I'm offering. Just say that we've agreed in principle and go try to run it up with that guy. It's like we're not trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are out. They are out. Dunzo. Finito. No player. Okay. Thank you for your time. This is now, again, a one-horse race between the San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk. There's no other parties. Barring a fourth quarter Hail Mary from some other team who wants to get involved, this is a one-horse race. That's it. That is it. So it is what it is, man. So we just wait. We just wait from here on out. All right. I think I've done enough. I think I've done enough on this Brandon Aiyuk situation. And hopefully they announce it soon because I'm tired of waiting. Tired of waiting. So that's where we're at. Appreciate everyone for tapping in today. All that good stuff. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. Love you guys. I'm out of here for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to